Alright guys, so we have the Link Festival coming in a day or two, depending on when this video actually goes live on the channel, but I thought it'd be really fun to go ahead and talk about some of the decks that are going to be played during the Link Festival. Some of them are kind of cope, but I think they would be really fun if people would play them, but I don't know if some of these are going to be played, but I think most of these would have a pretty good stint at being viable for at least just getting your gems and such for the Link Festival. So we're going to talk about some of those in today's video, but before we begin, if you have not already, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel for some awesome Yu-Gi-Oh content. I'm going to try to do this as daily as I can. I mean, there's always generally something going on with Yu-Gi-Oh or the community, so I'm going to try my best to talk about stuff that is coming out, but without further ado, let's actually go ahead and talk about what is going down in here. And most of these decks are relatively unhit. Now, it's going to look a little bit scuffed. I just threw them in here so I remembered my talking points. But first and foremost, I want to go ahead and talk about the deck that I think might be the most annoying to go up against, and that is going to be the Code Talker deck. If you don't know what this deck does, basically, it is going to shove Nightmare Corruptor Ibly on your side of the field, and what this does is it makes it to where you cannot special summon any monsters except Link monsters. And you might be wondering, well, ZTL, why is that a problem? You know, if we're in the Link Festival and all I can do is Link summon, why would this be an issue? Well, what they're going to do is they're going to perform a U-Link, which is where they take up their extra monster zone and your extra monster zone, and they lock you out of the extra deck. And usually they're protecting their cards from things like, you know, board breakers like Raigekis and Lightning Storms and stuff like that. It's generally pretty hard to break unless you got like specific stuff like a Kaiju, or you got like sphere modes and stuff to break up their protection and then, you know, break them apart with like Raigekis and other stuff like that. It's generally hard to break, and usually it's going to be GG if you're in a Link format like this. Now, they did try to go out of their way by like limiting Microcoder over here. Microcoder is one of their better cards for like doing Link summons. A lot of these small Code Talker guys basically allow them to like link off from the hand and such. It makes Link summoning a lot easier. But even if they don't perform the U-Link, they could still make like a big access code that can like punch you twice or something, and that's generally also going to be GG. I think this is going to be one of the more threatening decks. I would expect a lot of people to gravitate toward this, but maybe the Microcoder being limited to one for this event might, you know, turn some people off to actually, you know, playing this deck. Although I would have thought they maybe would have just wanted to limit Ibly instead of Microcoder, but you know, it's whatever. They can do whatever they want. I mean, they're both pretty much like infinitely searchable. They're both Cybers monsters, right? And as we know, like the entirety of the Cybers typing or attribute, whatever, the typing is pretty much like they're all like the same deck, right? They're all like, well, this is Fire Cybers and this is like Dark Cybers and these guys are Rainbow Cybers, right? Like they're all Cybers, right? At the end of the day. So that's like one of the decks that I think is going to be one of the more threatening ones. I'm going to go ahead and take that off so I don't end up talking about it again. Next, we have Salamangreat. This is the one that I actually think is going to be played the most by a lot of people, because Salamangreat just got a structure deck. And basically, you get everything you need to play Salad right out of the box just by buying a couple of those structure decks. And I think a lot of people are going to be on this strictly because of that. Now, are a lot of people going to be able to pilot Salamangreat very well? We'll see. Like, you know, I've already run into some people on ladder that are playing Salamangreat and Marincess and some of the new decks that are more available now, and they're not exactly great, but I'm assuming they're taking the time to try to learn some of these combos, because once you figure out Salamangreat and that pretty much all of the cards are just like infinite extension, you know, like Spinny from Grave comes back, you got Jack Jaguar that comes back whenever you Link summon a guy, your boy, Sunlight Wolf can get you any fire monster back. So, you used Ash Blossom, well, I can just recur that. They have a searchable Solemn Judgment. It's a pretty good archetype once you learn how to actually play it. Now, they did lose Mirage Stalio. Mirage Stalio is their Exceed monster, and it basically lets them summon any of their salads from deck, right? And it's really, really good for combos and stuff like that. But they did lose it because it's a Link Festival. You can't play any Exceed cards. So I think this deck will be highly represented. I imagine you'll see a lot of people maybe like putting in Pyro Phoenix. Pyro Phoenix, basically, if you reincarnation summon, that's the Salamangreat monster using itself as its own link material, if you're not aware. So like with the field spell up, you could have a Pyro Phoenix link off for another copy of itself, right? And then they get like effects off of that. Pyro Phoenix just blows up the board. Like, it just blows up the entire board. So I imagine some people might be teching that into some of their decks and stuff like that. But Salamangreat's probably going to be represented a lot. And I would maybe familiarize yourself with learning how to play against it, because the structure deck, I imagine, is being pushed right now because of this tournament. Now, the next one is Sky Striker. Sky Striker's pretty much at full power here. They really got no hits at all whatsoever. I mean, even if I go over here and I just double check, yeah, they didn't touch anything, right? Like, Ngage over here is to 2, you know, I mean, Widow Anchor's at 2, like who cares? Like, they really got, like, no major hits at all whatsoever. I mean, you could still run stuff like Reinforcement of the Army, you could still load up your deck with traps. I imagine people will still be on Striker. I mean, Effect Veiler is still legal, I believe, and if Effect Veiler is still legal, then that means if Selene is legal, yep, they still have a line into the big boy access code talker. Yep. Yeah, so Sky Striker is still infinitely playable. I was like, well, let me just double check. Let me make sure I don't give any misinformation. We got a search bar right here, and I'm in the deck editor that has the ban list and everything on it. So that way, you know, we can actually check if they're going to be viable. And so, yeah, Sky Striker, I imagine, is going to be playable. They're just going to load up hand traps. They're going to do the same thing they always do, just slowly chipping away, taking your monsters, negating cards, banishing from the field, you know, popping stuff with Afterburner. And then whenever they're ready to end the game, there's no DPE, but they can still make an access code talker. And I imagine that'll see a lot of play as well, especially because a lot of people didn't want to add that, because I know a lot of people are probably going to be summoning on the Sky Striker box, because Mathmech is going to be really good in the coming months once they get Circular, and Striker is in the same box as Mathmech for whatever reason. But that is going to be a deck that I think is going to be really good. In the same vein, I think Live Twin is also going to be pretty good. They recently just got Trouble Sunny. Trouble Sunny is basically their new boss monster that lets them recur the abilities of Leela and Kiss-a-Kill. That's basically a draw and a pop. So that's going to be a deck that I imagine a lot of people are going to be playing. But similarly to like Sky Striker, it's if you have the deck, people will probably be playing it. And if you do go up against it, this is another one of those decks that can just load up on hand traps. They could play so many hand traps in their main deck, and they're really not hurt at all by only being able to play Link monsters, because that's really all they play in the first place, right? Some people might, I don't know, they might be running like what, the rank 2s, I believe, right? What the Live Twins are. Hold on, let me double check. Let me make sure I'm not getting my my facts wrong here. Yeah, because I'm like, I know people, yeah, like it's the rank 2s and stuff that some people will like throw in there. I think it's the Sky Cavalry card, I believe, is what they play. But yeah, they lose out on that. Who really cares? Tenny is pretty much at full power as well. Tenny is one of those decks that's really, really cheap. And if you need a budget option, but you don't want to play Salamangreat, look at this, dude. Look at this. All of the good cards, dummy cheap, bro. These are all stupid dummy cheap. And then you have Sasahara over here, or Saharahara, however you say the guy, right? I can't pronounce it. I'm bad at pronouncing these weird words, right? But this guy's an absolute house. Basically, he makes a token, and while that token is there, not only is it another big thing that's going to like be punching the opponent, but you basically can't take out, I'm just going to call him Big Boy. You can't take out Big Boy while that token is on the board. So this is definitely going to be a budget deck that I imagine a lot of people are going to be playing, because if you're familiar with like Sword Soul Tenny, you probably have a decent grasp of how to play Tenny already. I mean, you already kind of understand some of the better ones, and I just got to incorporate like blue and maybe green. I don't think anybody's going to be playing red, but I don't know. We'll see what people find viable for playing Tenny in this, but I imagine Tenny is a deck that a lot of people will be able to play because it's stupid, dummy, cheap. I mean, you have Draco Masters over here. That's okay. You could literally just you don't have to play it, right? You don't have to play it. It's nice to have, but you don't really need it, right? So Tenny's another one of those decks I think might be played. Goki is kind of cope on my part. I really like Goki. I think it's a cool, sick deck, but it's not like it really lost anything. Like, Goki's one of those decks that just, you know, ever since like Gumblar got obliterated, you know, nobody really plays Goki because you can't play Goki Gumblar anymore. And so the deck is like at full power. You could play all of the cards. Like, none of them are limited. I just don't know if anybody's going to play them. The only reason I bring it up is that, like, you have Power Load Ogre, which is just a big bungus that's unaffected by card effects. Like, stuff like that is really good. But I almost feel like if you're going to want to do this, for one, you have to have like made Goki. And I don't know if anybody has made Goki. I don't think I've seen a single person play Goki on Master Duel, but if you want a big unaffected bungus, you're probably better off playing Adagnister. Now, the one thing that's kind of bad about Adagnister that you'll see right here, or you won't see it, is you don't see their other extra deck monsters. You don't see the Wind Pegasus, you don't see Light Dragon, and am I missing another one? I don't think I'm missing another one. I think that's the two you're missing. But the reason that's important is that they have cards that let them like target attributes that they have in the extra deck to get some of their main deck guys, and that can you know, kind of hurt your consistency a little bit, especially because they limited my boy Picari over here. Now they didn't limit a Chi-Chi, thank goodness, but like a Chi-Chi and Picari are pretty much the two main guys, so limiting one and not limiting the other is kind of necessary unless you want to like kill the deck. So I'm imagining what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it to where you can't make like a 6k Arrival Cybers Ad Ignister. I don't know why they would really care about that, because everybody's going to be running access code, and access code generally can get bigger than 6k if you prepare around it. But this is something that I would say to maybe be on the lookout for, because Goki, well, that's kind of cope that anybody's going to play that because they can make like big unaffected bunguses. Ad Ignister is actually a deck that people do play in Master Duel. This is a, I don't want to say like a common deck, but it is a more rogue deck. So there are people that are going to be playing it. And if you've got it, it's definitely not a bad deck to play. You're going to have to fill in some consistency cards, maybe. You might have to do a little shenaniganery over here, but I think you can get it done. Marincess, next deck. I think this deck will be all over the place as well. Although, based on what I've seen so far on ladder, it's not looking like a lot of people have learned how to play the deck yet, so you might get some free wins. I encountered a guy that made his Aqua Argonaut and had no equips to it, no Battle Ocean either. So the whole meme behind Marincess is that you want to make their new boss monster Aqua Argonaut, and down here you'll see that basically she can unequip stuff to be a negate for spell traps, right? Which is really good. Although it's kind of fair in a way, because even though it's like, you know, you're negating stuff, you have to summon the cards off of Aqua Argonaut, and that's going to make her weaker, right? She's going to like lose attack points, because the whole thing with Aqua Argonaut is that she becomes this like really big, like, I don't want to say towers, but like pseudo towers monster, right? Pseudo towers, we'll call her that. That has like some negates, but she has to like pay the price for those negates, right? She has to get smaller and easier to act, kind of like maybe better or worse Appaloosa, however you want to think about it. I don't know, but Marincess, I imagine, will be everywhere. It's just a matter of will people be able to play it or not. It's one of those decks that's really easy to play. It's just a matter of like, are they playing the good Marincess cards? Like, as long as you're playing the actual good cards, you should be able to like play through a lot of hand traps. You should, you know, be able to get out decent boards rather consistently. It's just a matter of, did you pull all the new cards? And I believe like Dive and whatnot. Yeah, Dive is an SR, Aqua Argonaut is a UR. Yeah, the new ones are, these are all like the new ones that you want to play, and they're all SRs. That can be like a little annoying. At least some of like the older cards that you do actually play. Like you do play Blue Slug, you do play Sea Angel, you play Marbled Rock. These are all like rares and everything. So I don't know. Maybe you could argue that like it's kind of annoying that like the newer cards are higher rarity and it's going to be harder to play the deck. But at the same time, a lot of the older cards that you still play, because there's still like some staples, like, you know, stuff like Wave, Battle Ocean. At the very least, these are very, very cheap. So I expect to see Marincess everywhere. These two are kind of cope. I've been playing a lot of B-Trooper lately. I've been trying to learn how to play the deck, and I think you can still make do playing B-Trooper. Like, I think one of the main things you're losing is, like, DPE. Like, you're losing access to being able to, like, put DPE in the deck because there's no fusions. I think you can still play this deck, because I was looking up B-Trooper, I was looking up, like, the Maxi cards, all of, like, the Kakaroches, and all of the B-Trooper cards are like unlimited, right? So you could pretty much play the deck as per usual. I just don't know how well it's going to perform, right? Because DPE is a pretty good part of the deck, but at the same time, having searchable Max C and having a searchable Macrocosmos, and I believe it's Retaliating C, I believe is what it's called. Let me double check that real quick, just to make sure that someone's not like, I bought the wrong card because of you, ZTL. It is, yeah, it is Retaliating C. Retaliating C, anytime your opponent activates a spell card that would special summon a monster. So, I don't know. I know Drytron's not going to be in the tournament or whatever, but they activate their ritual spell that's going to special summon one of their monsters. Boom! You smack down Retaliating C, and now Macrocosmos is on the board, and you could just link it off on your turn to get rid of it and not suffer the consequences. So, I think this deck could be playable. It's a matter of, like, how hard did you go on Invincible Air Raid? I went pretty hard to build the B-Trooper deck because I really wanted to play it, because I thought having Searchable Maxi and kind of like an OCG metagame. OCG/TCG, but Maxi's good anyway, right? It's like, I thought it'd be really, really good to have, so I built the deck, and I don't know, I might try it a little bit, but I don't know if I'm coping a little bit too hard. And then, finally, there's Dragon Link. I don't know how good Dragon Link is going to do, because, yes, you still have access to, like, you can make, like, access code, you can make Boral Sword, you can make Boral End, you can make You still have Striker Dragon, which gives you access to your field spell. You're losing a lot of the other really good consistency cards that Dragon Link really likes, like Chaos Ruler, milling 5 and searching a hand trap. I believe it's the Undead Vampire, the new level 8 Exceed card that they also like, because you get to mill even more cards. Right, Dragon Link likes having a lot of those cards in the graveyard because they can kind of plus off of them, and not having those, I don't think it's going to be like unplayable, but I think it's going to be a lot worse. So I'm going to be really curious to see how Dragon Link pilots actually go about playing this tournament. But let me know what you're going to be playing in the comments down below. I think I'm going to be shifting around from like Bee Trooper and I don't know, maybe Marin says if I can actually manage to get the deck built, because that's another deck that I've really been wanting to learn and get a lot better at. So I don't know, I might be playing Bee Trooper. So if you run into some guy named like ZTL or something and he summons a lot of bugs, you might have played me. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice rest of your day. Peace. Late, guys.